Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to the Christmas edition of Tide Talk. I'm your host, Shawn Taylor. I'm here with two familiar faces, probably. Chris hadn't been on the show in a while. Chris Blackshear is on the show again with us, and of course, to my left is Maurice Booth. You guys will remember that face. No way to forget it.
Yeah.
No way to forget it.
Only a mother could love it.
That's exactly right. We hope that you guys had a great Christmas. But we're here to talk about Alabama football, and man, we got a big game coming up. I know that there's been a lot of conversation about several things. Is Tua healthy? Can we stop Kyler Murray? You know, are we going to be able to put up enough points? And so we're just going to jump right into it. Chris, I'm going to ask you. I mean, you know, the last time we played Oklahoma was the Sugar Bowl. I think it was 2013, maybe.
That was a lot. Well, you got to think back. If I remember correctly, wasn't that right after the kick six? If I remember correctly, right after it. So, I mean, it's one of those things of what motivation did you have? And you find out about all the bowl games. It really comes down to it. I think the semifinal rounds are the same way. But even all the other bowl games, what team is motivated the most to win a football game and be competitive in it? Because you see individuals making choices of not to play. How many make choices to meet the rules and do what they need to do when they're there for 5 to 6 nights in a city that most of them have never been to before? I think Alabama, they just didn't play well, you know, in that game. Well, actually, they started off well, Maurice, if you think about it. And they just, in my opinion, quit trying to run the football. Well, Chris, I think it's around. And
I mean, you bring up a great point. I mean, listen, we'll go back to, if I'm not mistaken, 2008. We go 12-0 and play Florida in the SEC championship game, and we get beat and turn around and play Utah and didn't even show up.
Right, and one of the things I look for, and I don't bet anymore. But one of the things I look for,
you want to bet?
Lunch, sure. Is you find those teams that are dejected, that really don't want to be there. Kind of like what Chris was saying. We were that team that year. Auburn was that team last year.
Right. Emotionally
drained and go to the Peach Bowl, nothing to play for. They lay an egg. UCF is still talking about how great they are. I wish somebody would play them and shut them up. Come on.
Like LSU? Let's go. Yeah, LSU.
Now, but here's the thing. I worry about LSU coming in there going,
gosh, me too. I said the same thing, Chris. I'm thinking, I want to see UCF play Alabama, Georgia,
with something on the line.
I'm not so sure that LSU is really motivated, other than just pride. But to your point, I think you were making, you got 18, 19-year-old kids in towns that they've never been to, experiencing the hype of the bowl, and the people are, welcoming them in hospitality, and they, do sometimes stupid things. And so I'm not so sure that LSU is mentally ready to play UCF.
Well, I'm going out there. I'm going to tell you, I think they beat them by at least 3 touchdowns.
You think
and
LSU
I think the reason they're going to do
it,
they're playing for everybody out there. They're tired of hearing the UCF talk.
I hope so.
And in fact, the other day when you heard Dan Mullen talking about it for Florida put a 2-for-1 on the table. I'll give you give me 2 home games in the swamp. We'll come to you. No negotiation from UCF. They think they're already on the big boy level of, no, give me a 1-for-1. To me, that's easy to hide behind. So until somebody just absolutely takes them to the woodshed, bends them over their knee, and spanks them till they tap out, they're not going to shut up.
You really got that spanking down to a detail, which kind of concerns me.
I mean, turns them over
I'm just saying,
Hey, big
with
brother,
a big wooden paddle.
Big brother whooping little brother
Let's
type
talk about
thing.
your childhood after this.
Well, here's the thing that we don't have to worry about, because there is something to play for.
Right.
There is something to play for. You mentioned semifinal game. I mean, it's win or go home. Our guys are there as well. Oklahoma's there in preparation.
Let me ask you this: Are we really? Because we were just talking about the 3 players that got suspended. Go back, and if you think I'm being a little too overzealous about it, go back to 2011, where we're playing LSU, and everybody on that team said this is not a fun trip. This is a business trip. We've got one thing to do down here. Go to 2015, where they were so serious they sent Tony Brown home because he was acting up in practice. This team had 3 players suspended for team rules violations. I don't know what they are. I haven't heard. I've asked around.
Well, I will tell you this. I don't know how much you read into that, but they didn't even travel.
Right.
So it wasn't that they got there and broke team rules. They didn't even make the trip.
Which is even worse.
Yeah, which makes you wonder. And a couple of things you have to go through when you play at the end of the year and into the new year. Couple things. One, the NCAA automatically sends you a random roster number of people that you have to pull for random drug testing prior to the bowl, and it will happen at all the bowl games across the country. Every team will have X number randomly selected on a random day at the bowl sites to be tested. 2, finals are over with, and the semesters there, you could have grade situations as well too, not to mention all the other ones. But I think the thing is, Maurice, is you're right, to Shawn's point, they didn't travel. So whatever happened was in-house rules that were broken. I'd be very surprised, though, from a focus perspective, if you see anybody outside of some of those other things that may come up unexpectedly of anybody being sent home for either team.
Listen, I think, Maurice, that it's a positive that it was prior to travel. I would agree with you that had they went to Miami and then were sent, I would probably agree with you. Are we focused?
Your mind starts to wonder, was it grades? Was it staying out too late?
Right.
A number of things. I don't know. But you just hate to hear any type of negative news going into something as critical and crucial as this is.
I mean, that's always a fear that you have, when we've said it over and over again, when you have 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, because not only have we talked about Saban does such a great job of managing them as far as game preparation, but he's got to manage them.
Well, I was telling a mutual friend of ours, I believe it was Tim Gallman, that this team has a focus to a certain degree that you hear them talking similar to the 2015 team, where they almost police themselves. And they're that type of focus. That's why it caught me by surprise when I saw 3 players that were suspended. And again, I don't know what it is. I've asked around, and I haven't. Whatever it is not coming out.
Well, they haven't mentioned anything as far as what the specifics are to this point that I know of. Chris, do you have any more? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've read some things. I've read that it was just breaking team rules, so they didn't travel. Really, I hate to say that it's not an impact, but really the only impact is Deontay Brown, the starting offensive lineman.
Right.
Fortunately, as I think, Chris, you and I were talking about this a little bit, fortunately, the guy that's going to be filling his shoes started several games this year as well.
Right.
But Chris brought up a good point. Why was he replaced? I believe it's Lester Cotton that will take that starting job. So there's going to be some changes there. Obviously, let's go into this conversation. Let's talk about the Heisman. Yeah. We haven't really talked since then. I know a lot of. I'm an Alabama fan, and of course I wanted Tua to win it. So what are your thoughts? I mean, I'll tell you personally, I think Kyler Murray's a dynamic athlete. I know that word's been thrown around in the Alabama locker room. I know that the guys have talked about it. He's a dynamic guy. I'm just not so sure that you place him in the SEC for 8 games that he is the same player.
Here's a stat that I wanted to see that nobody pulled up. I wanted to see the number of minutes that Tua played versus number of minutes that Murray played. Now, take those total minutes, number of points that while they were in, that the team scored. And you would see that, of course, on average, Tua's were much higher. Second stat I wanted to see, the total, as far as total defense, their opponents.
Right.
No contest.
Right.
I'm sorry. Big 12, big nothing in defense. And the SEC, we faced Mississippi State and LSU.
And Auburn.
And Auburn, and then the last game, Georgia, of course. But during the regular season, those defenses were nationally ranked in the top 20, top 15. So you compare that to what Murray faced. He really only faced, I think Texas is the only one that had any type of ranking that was worthy, and I think they were 30th.
Twice.
Yeah, but that's
And
the
the
other
fewest
thing.
points they scored.
That's the other thing that irritated me. They said, well, Kyler Murray came back and defeated the team. I was like, well, great. He had a second shot at it.
Right. He should have.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Shawn, as any good wingman, let me help my buddy out over there. You're exactly right on your points. When you look at it, so we know Tua did not take a snap in the fourth quarter to the LSU game.
Right.
Take the minutes out for a second. We know for 8 ball games, he did not play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Some of that was just one series in the third quarter. Tua only had 700 less total passing yards than Kyler Murray. 3 less touchdowns. Kyler Murray has 40. Tua has 37. And let's don't forget now what happened in the SEC championship game as well, too. So take that timeout played.
Okay.
Kyler Murray has his stats. He's completed 71% of his passes. But Tua's completed 68% of his passes. Tua has 3 less interceptions than Kyler Murray. When it comes down to it, Kyler Murray has the numbers he has because he had to have the numbers for his team to be 12-1 playing in the semifinal game right now. If Kyler Murray didn't have those numbers, put it this way, if Oklahoma's defense was average, Kyler Murray wouldn't have the numbers he has.
Correct.
If you go back and look, Alabama gave up 14 or less points 5 times. Oklahoma gave up 14 or more 11 times.
Would you like their numbers in defense? They are 111th
Hmm?
in total defense. They are 129th, which is dead last in passing defense. That's Oklahoma's. I know we're getting into that. And so you're talking about a team that's got a defense that's that poor.
Absolutely.
And they're able.
How good's their offense, Mo? How good's that offense?
Oklahoma's
Putting up
offense.
all kinds of points, aren't they?
They're number
Be honest
one.
with me.
They're number
How
one.
awesome. They're good, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've only scored 47 more points in 13 games than Alabama has total points.
Against really.
I'm just saying, only 47 more.
It goes, it goes to what we've said over and over again. It's what I've said. Man, I would like to have seen some of those numbers. I'd like to, if you took Kyler Murray's fourth quarter stats away,
Right.
and then compared Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, I would have loved to have seen what the stats looked like at that point.
And keep in mind, he needed fourth quarters against Army and Texas in the regular season.
If I'm Nick Saban, I'm going back and I'm watching Army's defense.
Oh, yeah.
You see what Army did to Houston in the bowl game the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, they scored 70, but held them to 14, and they hold Oklahoma to 28.
Yeah.
Lost 28-21. So you would think, if Army, and they've won 11 games now,
yeah,
11-2.
yeah.
Go look at what they do. I think there's some things you can pick up on there.
Well, that's going to lead into the next segment. We're talking about some things that we all firmly believe. I'm going to tell you, I think it worked out best for Alabama football with respect to the Heisman. Look, I think we all agree Tua was probably the best player in the country. There's a lot of people that believe that way. But for the University of Alabama, I think it probably worked out best. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to take a short break on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. Make sure you contact Bob for any of your insurance needs. But we'll be right. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Is Bob here?
State Farm agent Bob English is here to help protect all the moving parts of your life with auto, home, life, and financial services. Bob English and his team make it simple to bring together what matters to you. Get to a better state. Call Bob today.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. So we were talking the last segment just about the Heisman Trophy and who we thought should have won, and we all agree Tua should have won the Heisman. But let's talk about the impact that has, because I can tell you that the stuff that I've read, I mean, our guys are disappointed that didn't come back to Tuscaloosa. The defense especially. The defense firmly believes that Tua was the best that they played against, because obviously, in practice they go against the ones. But what do you think? How do you think that impacts the football game this Saturday night?
I mean, you've heard Mack Wilson and several other defensive players being very vocal about their disappointment in Tua not winning it. I think the thing is everybody's getting caught up in this Kyler Murray thing. And let's first off, he's a phenomenal athlete. People forget how good of a baseball player he is too, and the multi-million-dollar signing bonus he got and set aside to come play
with Oklahoma.
With Oklahoma, yeah, with both of them. Yeah,
I didn't know who.
No, you know who gave him the signing bonus.
Oakland or Oklahoma.
But, yeah, that's good. But people need to keep in mind, as good as Kyler Murray is, they got two really good running backs. They got two wide receivers that have also caught over 1,000 yards, which you're going to, I guess, if you have to throw that much. But the thing is I think, Shawn, it is motivation for Alabama. But I think the thing is, for me, Maurice, is not as much the concern defensively. Look, Oklahoma's going to move the ball. They're going to move the ball. They're going to score. For me, I'm not as concerned about that and the motivation. Our defense is going to do what they do. You know, they're going to be bend but not break. They're going to give up some big plays here and there, but inside the 20, I think they're going to kind of tighten the rope a little bit. But I'm more concerned, Maurice, going into this game, and we can talk more about this. My biggest concern is Tua only being 80 to 85%. Let's be honest, he ain't had no contact since the SEC championship game when he went down. How does he respond from that? Look for us, I think, honestly. I think for the first time all year, we may have more rushing yards and passing yards in the game because we can neutralize the Oklahoma offense by having some time-consuming drives offensively, running the football, and which keeps Tua healthy for the longer throughout the game, and not really putting him out there on an island. Is what I'm thinking, Maurice.
Well, if I disagree with you, is this going to hurt my year-end evaluation? I report to Chris. Anyway, so no.
Please. No, I'll just throw my pillow.
The only thing I disagree with you on is I'm not certain that they're going to get anything because this defense does have a chip on its shoulder. Kyler Murray is a phenomenal athlete, and the last show that we did, I said, that guy concerns me. He really is that good. The thing is, again, I don't think they faced anything like this, and with Nick Saban's defense, you give him a month to prepare.
Yeah.
He's gonna find somebody to spy on.
Well, who's Alabama faced close to Oklahoma? Would you say Missouri
Georgia
would probably be the closest, or Georgia?
Well, I mean, as far as overall,
I think you're right. I was just curious. Yes,
Georgia, but we haven't faced anybody. It's almost near impossible to mimic somebody like Kyler Murray.
Right.
And whoever ran scout quarterback these past few weeks, and I don't know who, I guarantee you, it was somebody that was a wide receiver.
It's actually a guy that played high school quarterback that is a, if you wouldn't ask me his name, I could have told you, but he is a DB for us.
Okay.
This is the information he gets by being the host of the show that we're not.
But is a phenomenal athlete, and he will be the guy that was supposed to be mimicking Kyler Murray. Stature's similar, really fast.
Right.
Doesn't know that he will throw the ball as well, but we're gonna.
I'll agree with Chris in the fact that I think our offense will be similar to the 2009 SEC championship game where we kept Tebow off the field in the second half. It'll be something like that, but I think Damian Harris and Najee Harris and Jacobs will have great nights running the ball and will throw when need to. I'm still not convinced that Tua plays.
Here's the thing, guys. Here's my take on that. I do believe it's motivation. I do believe our guys are upset because you hear all the time they talk about the brotherhood of the team, that team concept. I'm going to tell you that Jalen Hurts pulls all of that together. He's the critical factor, and not from just because he came in the SEC championship game. Just his leadership, the fact that he's there, he pulls those guys together, and so I believe he has probably had some conversation. He's probably talking to the defense. He's probably in the mix with all of them and kind of beefing that up a little bit. But I will tell you that Tua's going to play. I will tell you that I think he's healthy. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to come out throwing the football.
I think he's 80 to 85%. But here's my thing. Going into this game, I'm just going to sum it up this way, Maurice, and see what you think about this, your thoughts. Everybody's talking about the Oklahoma offense and what Alabama's going to do. The storyline of the game is, can Oklahoma stop Alabama? Oklahoma didn't have but 6 interceptions all season now. And I forgot the little kid, defensive back, has 3 of them. One of their corners has 3 of their 6. They don't put pressure on quarterbacks. See, I'm just saying, to me, the question is, Oklahoma, what are you going to do to stop Alabama's
last
offense?
Time I said that on this show, I said that about Georgia. They were one of the worst teams in the country in sacks. and dadgummit, if they don't bend Tua every which way.
But when the game was on the line, what happened?
Well, Jalen came in and did it.
Chris, you bring up a great point. You bring up a great point.
Thank you. He didn't want to admit
which
that.
is where
I'm
I was
glad you
going.
will.
Which is where I was going. Look,
I wasn't
all
listening.
of the talk about the Heisman and our defense is upset about that. Do you not believe that our offense is pretty upset that all they hear is how good Kyler Murray and Oklahoma's offense
I'm
is?
sure they get tired of hearing all that. And that's one of the jinxes. You know, you've always heard about the Heisman jinx, and one reason is because whoever wins it gets all the pub. And they talk and they have to answer questions. Meanwhile, the opponent's going, keep running your mouth. Keep talking. I'm going to prove something to you.
I firmly believe, and listen, I've said it over and over again, and I'm going to say it on television. If we don't score 60 plus on Oklahoma, I'm going to be upset.
Well, are we on television?
I'm going to be upset.
60.
Because the Big 12, we've said it on this show today, and we've said it before, the Big 12 doesn't play the same football that we play in
They
the
don't,
SEC.
but you need to be prepared to be upset. Because if you get a big lead like that, I've got another game with a bigger prize to play for. We didn't even score 60 against the Cajuns of ULL
If we don't score 60, I'm gonna be upset. And if it's any worse, if they score a bunch of points, I'm gonna be upset. Because granted, I think Kyler Murray's a very talented guy, but I'm in agreement. We're going to put a spy on him. And I said this in the last show, if you remember. Yeah. I said Dylan Moses is the guy.
Because he can run.
He's 6'2", 6'3", 220 pounds and runs a 4.4 40. And we're going to spy him on Kyler Murray, and I believe we're going to have
Would you be just that upset success. If Avery Johnson, the basketball team, didn't score 60?
Well, it's not surprising.
I will say this, though. I'll give you this. To your point with the Dylan Moses, I don't think there'll be a need for any blitz packages. I think I
think we can get to him well enough.
You don't want to blitz him. You got to contain him and make the pocket collapse on him and make him, if he does anything, make him step up, not get out.
If you don't think for 1 second that, to your point earlier about a month to prepare, that our guys know that they've got to contain the outside. We're not going to have to run a lot of blitz packages, in my opinion,
right.
Because we're going to force him to step up in the pocket because he's a smaller guy in stature. We got, Raekwon Davis, who's 6'8", 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some huge guys that are going to try to get in the passing lanes, cause him to do something that he don't want to do.
That's the thing that, and I said it the last time. The fact that he's so small, he can hide behind his linemen. Davis and Williams and Ray, all of them, it's going to be a tough time. Bugs, it's going to be a tough time just locating him if he's behind a lineman and he can see the gaps, and then he knows it's time for me to run.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this. He'll run first, pass second, because it'll be a big game. He'll be nervous. He knows he can depend on his legs. Then he'll depend on his arm. And to Chris's point, he's going to want to get outside.
Of course he is.
So he can see something and open it up. That's going to be the key.
I think another thing you're seeing, too, is going to be Alabama's defense is going to be good enough. They can go zone if they want to give him. They're going to be able to give him multiple looks in the pocket. They can go zone one play. They can give cover two one time. They can also go man. And when they go man, you can disguise your blitzes that way a lot, too. Because a lot of times when you go man on the outside, you're going to send the extra guys. You can give them so many different looks. And I think a lot of the Big 12 defenses don't have the ability to do. They kind of just get in their base. They sit back there, and it's like, I'm going to give up some big plays in yardage. I'm just going to get the ball back and score. How quick can I get the ball back? It's almost like, can I go in and let them score so I can get the ball back, and who has it last?
There's a lot of things that I think will come into play. To both of your points earlier, I think that we have an opportunity to run the football. They've always said the best way to stop Kyler Murray is to keep him off the field. Man, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be our approach, because I think we're going to prove a point.
At some point, he may not want to be on the field.
That's exactly right. I do think that we will be able to run the football. I do believe that, but I'm telling you, my opinion is we're going to come out guns blazing, and we feel strongly enough that our defense is good enough to stop them.
I believe so.
I just really think that. I think that you will see us run the football, but I do not believe that we're going to come out and just hand it off. It's not what we've done all year, and you don't change it now. That guy doesn't make me change my philosophy.
Well, I agree. But back to the original question about the Heisman Trophy and so forth, a Georgia friend of ours at work said, how does it feel for us to take the Heisman Trophy away from Tua? I said, that's not the trophy that we play for.
That's exactly right.
And that's why you haven't had one in about 35 years.
And I believe that you will, if you were to ask Tua that question, Tua would confidently say, I'd rather have the national championship.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Well, you remember that last year during the NCAA March Madness, Barkley had made a wager with Jalen. And it was about if you lose to Auburn, you got to wear an Auburn jersey. And so Jalen had it videoed the way he did it, and he put on the trophy, put on the jersey, and put his trophy in his backpack. Here you go, Mr. Barkley.
That's right.
Classic.
That's exactly right. All right, so predictions.
First off, I want to apologize for missing the memo on the colors. Secondly, I'm glad you got my contract back worked out so we can come back on the show.
That's right.
Thirdly, I never thought I'd be on the stage with multiple people and I'd be the most mature of everybody on the stage. So I got all that out of the way. My prediction, 49-17 Alabama.
49-17.
And by mature, he means old shirts. I
and
think,
shoes.
I didn't realize they made elastic Nike shirts now anyway, as well.
That's from the Ethan Allen furniture collection. Anyway, I'll leave that alone. I think, I don't know if we get to 60, but I really do believe it to be lopsided, 47-17.
I'm going to go out there and tell you that I believe that it's going to be 62-35, 62-38.
35.
So Alabama gives it the most points they get up all season.
I think that they'll give up some points. I think that Kyler Murray will make some plays, which is the reason I believe we'll get into the 60s. I think we'll score 50-plus.
Wait, that kind of prediction. Murray's that kind of prediction. We got to score 60 to win.
Well, what was the Arkansas game where we gave up 31 and Saban said, I don't think we've really beat anybody if you give up 31.
That's right.
So.
And so again, totally my 2 cents doesn't mean I'm right. But,
can I ask a quick question then?
Sure.
So if all these predictions pan out, which is an Alabama win, who they play for the championship?
Without a doubt, my opinion's Clemson.
I'm going to go with Nutter. No, I can't even say it, Clemson. So, I mean, that is such a mismatch. No offense to Kelly and his team, but they're not the same league as these 3 or 4.
And you will find that out quickly.
Yes, Georgia should be in.
Team speed.
Do you agree? It's going to be Clemson.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll find out. That game's the first game at 4:00.
Right.
Chris, me and you'll probably see each other down in Miami.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you're going to the Orange Bowl. I'm sorry, Mo.
We will be. Hey,
I can't go because he doesn't pay me enough.
Well, we did have a couple of calls, so I want to address those. We had a phone call from an Oklahoma fan who said that basically Tua was garbage and he didn't win the Heisman because he's garbage. And
Can I respond back to him? Yeah, War Eagle to yourself. That's what you wanted to hear.
and that Oklahoma was going to win. So I guess we'll find out Saturday night at 8 p.m. But you heard our predictions. We don't believe that Oklahoma should be in the same stadium, so we'll find that out. And then we had another phone call. Somebody asking about a gentleman asking about the people that were on the show the previous. So Maurice Booth was on the show. My brother Sheriff Heath Taylor was on the show, and this was December the 7th, 8th time frame. Myself, of course, Shawn Taylor. I'm the host of Tide Talk, and
the big guy that sat over there, Roy.
Oh yeah, and Coach Roy Dixon.
The good thing, whatever happened on that, the complaints that are coming in, I was not.
Coach Roy Dixon was on the show. So to the caller who asked about the gentlemen that were on the show, that's who it was. We appreciate you watching. We hope that you will again call in if you'd like to make a comment about the bowl game coming up Saturday night. Please call this number right here on the show. Here it is. Do you see it, Maurice?
I see it.
Right here on your screen. And we look forward to hearing from you. It's going to be a great football game Saturday night, Miami at the Orange Bowl, 8 p.m. Check us back right here next week because we'll be doing another show on the follow-up. Win or lose, we'll be right here on Channel 7 and 207. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be hopefully back next week with Tide Talk. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Go fund me to Miami.